I will start off with an apology this morning. Someone jumped on early on a different platform, Zoom, and we are on Google Meet. So I'm like, well, we can't have Zoom. And I don't want to confuse people. So I removed Zoom, but it removed everything. So we all got a brand new link this morning. So thank you for being flexible and jumping on.
Everybody needs to Zoom over to Google Meet.
Right. But I don't know how they're connected or why they should have been connected. But anyway, you got that for me. So. All right, welcome to December, everybody. Appreciate it. We have a lot of things, obviously, happening going on. Hope you're all doing well and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll get started here. All right. Now, make sure, John, let me know if the sound.
Leadership is perhaps one of the most misunderstood subjects in business. Good. Leadership has nothing to do with rank. I know many people who sit at the highest levels of an organization who are not leaders. We do as they tell us because they have authority over us, but we do not trust them and we do not follow them. I also know people at low levels of organizations that have no formal authority, but they've made a choice. The choice to look after the person to the left of them, the choice to look after the person to the right of them, and we would trust them and follow them anywhere. Leadership is the awesome responsibility to see those around us rise. Every one of us, can choose to be the leader we wish we had. We lead our teams and we can lead our clients when we decide that we will do everything in our power to see them rise, to see them achieve their ambitions and their dreams. And this is what servant leadership means. I serve your dream rather than you serve my bottom line. And it's totally fine to have financial goals. It's totally fine to have metrics because that becomes the proof of value that somebody wants to give you their money because they believe in you. It is proof positive. But the best leaders I know are students of leadership. There's no such thing as an expert leader. It doesn't exist. Like there's no such thing as an expert parent. It doesn't exist, right? We are students of leadership. And even the most senior leaders constantly are reading books, reading articles, watching talks, having conversations all the time about leadership. They're always in learning mode. And I think for anyone who wants to be a leader, you have to choose to be a student of the subject. Like anything, if you want to be good at something, you have to study it. And the most ignored characteristic of leadership, we talk about vision and charisma. Yes, these are important. But I've known some wonderful leaders who don't have huge world-changing vision. I've known some wonderful leaders that are quiet and sit in the corner, but they all have courage. The courage to advance a vision, the courage to ignore the short-term ups and downs of the business, the courage to take risks on people, the courage to believe in people, the courage to speak truth to power, the courage to do the right thing and have integrity. I think courage is a very undervalued characteristic of leadership.
There you go, everybody. I saw that and was thought about all of us when we deal with our clients, right? Why we're in this, obviously, to provide for our families and do whatever, but it really is. We show leadership in everything we do. Don and I and Raul and all of our team here like to do the same thing, lift you up, and we're here to help you succeed, which is kind of why we do what we do. So I start off with a little slide deck. I got some pictures of your broker team, broker review team, myself and Don and Raul, and Cecilia's on the call this morning. Good morning, Cecilia. That does most of your broker review scenes. We've got Ryan, of course, many of you have been a part of our career services, trying to get over. We've got Crystal here in the office that runs everything. We've got Grace over the Woodlands branch manager and Sandra down there in Pearland. Welcome to you all as well. All providing great servant leadership. And of course, we have our new admin staff as well. I got pictures of most of them now. So we've got Kristen and Destiny and Hannah, Melanie, Rosie, and Melissa all getting integrated and getting up to speed for the beginning of the year. So we have a great support staff for all of you. Looking forward to providing more value. Okay. And obviously, every single month we celebrate the people that have transferred into our family, our HomeSmart family. And I usually read every single name. I'm not going to read every name for the benefit of all of you and myself as well. But that, welcome to all of you that have joined, either transferring from Realty Associates. And then, of course, hey, Laura, hold on here. Yep, I'll show you in a second. Second screen here, and all those that have joined us from other companies. We appreciate you all here. You're going to love it at HomeSmart. And then, Laura, for your sake, go back here one more time. And right there, Crystal's right on top. She's right here in our leadership staff. So there you go. Crystal's not going anywhere. We would be very upset if she did. So make sure that you give her kudos. She's awesome. And as a reminder, one of the addresses was wrong last time. So we've got, these are our current office spaces here at the Galleria, although we are working on a lease and very soon for a space around the corner, which I'm excited about. Stay tuned for that. We've got the Highway 6 office. We've got the Pearland office down there in the Pearland Town Center, and we've got the Woodlands office along 45. We also picked up the Pearland Realty Associates office, which has a great training many of you have used. We've got the Realty Associates office in Sugarland, which is a co-work space. We got the Woodlands office up there with Grace, out there in Grogan Park Drive. Awesome place with training room as well. We just added a co-work in Katy, right there on Kingsland Boulevard. Fantastic. It's about cubicles, basically, in a shared space, but we are working on actively. In fact, I'm meeting with the contractor today to finish out our fully furnished permanent space in Katy. And of course, more details to follow, and we'll have a little grand opening when those happen. So definitely growing here. And we still have the 3 additional spaces up in the Dallas area. If you want to use them, we have Dallas, Fort Worth, and Arlington. Okay. All right. All right. So is Brittany here with us today? I didn't see Brittany jump on, but these are our smart partners. I want to make sure that you all know that we have people that businesses that partner with us, and people are still jumping on here. Any of our smart partners with us today? I'm going to go through.
I'm here.
Good.
I'm with Muscular Moving Men. I just don't know how to get it to say it on my name.
You got it, Cece. So hold on, I'll get to your slide. So here we go. We got Patriot Commission, which is our own version of e-commission, if you will. We've got Movement Mortgage. If Dustin's here, we'll get him on in a second. We've got Muscular Moving Men and Storage. So Cece, take it away.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everybody. I am Cece. I am your guys' new rep for Muscular Moving Men. I am so excited to be here. I am a short and sweet kind of person. So I'm just going to point out 2 big things I love to point out about our company. We are your long distance moving partner. So we are not doing local moves within your area, but we do have plenty of partners in your area that we would refer any local moves to. So we're going to be your long distance go-to people. 2 things that really set our company apart. One big thing is we do binding estimates for our long distance moves. What that means is when we give your client an estimate, that's going to be the price of their move. We're not going to raise the price and hold all of their stuff on the truck. Whatever we tell you, that is exactly what it's going to be. The only time it will change is if the scope of your move ends up being way less than we thought it would, we will reduce your price. So you're not going to have to worry about all of the crazy horror stories you hear about moving companies, keeping your stuff hostage. We are not that kind of company. And another thing I really like to point out is we have a dedicated move coordinator for each move. What that means is when you or your client call in, they are talking to the same person every single time. No confusion, no information getting mixed up, nothing's getting missed. It is the same person dealing with the entire move. It makes the process so much easier and just a lot more ease of mind for everybody involved. You can see all the other little fun things we've got, like licensed, bonded, and insured, all really cool things. And if you guys ever have any questions, I'll put all my information in the chat box below. Feel free to give me a text, call, email. I'm available literally all the time. So I would love to hear from some of you guys, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Susie. Appreciate it. All right. Any other of our smart partners there from Movement Mortgage? Okay, there we go. We've also got Move Concierge, which is one of our partners. We've now added on Lower Mortgage. Is anybody from Lower Mortgage here? So we've got 2 smart partners that are in lending. We have obviously a home warranty with American Home Shield right there with Shauna. Are you here? all our smart partners work with HomeSmart at the corporate level and the state level as well, and they pay a fee to partner with us to bring more value to our clients, but also for all the events we're talking about later, we couldn't do it without our smart partners. So thanks, CC, appreciate it. All right, next up. All right, here's all of our local partners: Patriot Commission, Muscular Moving Men, Movement Mortgage, Lower Mortgage, American Home Shield, and Move Concierge. Here's our national partners, obviously some of the same, including Reminder Media, Fellow, and so forth. Okay, good. All right, and then of course we usually have Robert Aldrich on here from our commercial team, HSI Commercial. He wasn't able to join us today, but I wanted to always get a shout out to our local HSI Commercial members. We have a lot of agents that do commercial and residential. These four have signed up and have been part of the HSI Commercial team. So we like to partner a lot of our agents that haven't done commercial yet with one of our professionals, so we have brokerage oversight. So just so you know. All right, Mr. Don. I forgot to take out the special agent. I'm going to change it up this time and say something else. But Don, take it away, brother.
As long as not secret agent.
Right.
That's what I was the first 5 years of my career. All right. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to our December brokerage meeting. And so, of course, my first slide has to do with mentorship. And of course, our mentoring program has just really grown leaps and bounds here in the last 30 to 60 days with Realty Associates coming on board as well. So it really has grown to the point to where it is taking a lot of mentors, a lot of mentees taking advantage of the program. And of course, the program is really all about just becoming a better professional or just getting started in the business and doing the things that need to be done. A lot of times we talk about brand new baby agents just coming in on board. They're what we call unconsciously incompetent. They don't even know what they don't know. And so mentoring is really to help them identify the things that they need to know. And then next step, do those things, learn how to do those things. And that's what mentoring is all about. So we invite you, if you are new to the business, take advantage of the mentoring program where you will be set up with a mentor. And mentors are individuals who have shown a high degree of ability. And not just once or twice, but throughout their career that they have shown that they have the ability not only to do a good job, but to do it at scale, have the ability to do a lot of it, which for the majority of us in real estate, it's all about, if we're really planning on making a living out of this, if we want this to be a career and not just a job, we have to learn how to scale. And your mentors are very good. They've done it in their business and they can pass it help onto you to learn how to do that. So it's your first 3 sales transactions. There's no upfront cost. And it is a great way for you to learn the business. And so if you're interested in it at all, you can get in touch with me. I'm happy to go over the program with you and the things that would be required. But like I said, no upfront cost. You don't pay your mentor anything until you have transactions, sales transactions at that. So can I move? There it is. Okay. And then we also have what we call the one and done program, which is not the full force of the mentoring program, but this is a great program for maybe some of you who may have got out of the business for a little while, or maybe you just haven't done contracts in a while for whatever reason. Things have changed an awful lot in the last year or so. Things have changed to the point where if the last contract you did was January of 2024, it looks so totally different today, you wouldn't recognize it and you would need some help. And so our mentors are also available for that one and done program. Now, it's a less structured type of program because in this, it's a little bit more individualized because not everybody's going to need exactly the same thing. Regular mentoring program, we know everybody's starting from ground zero pretty much. And so it's very structured. In the one and done, you may need help with nothing but documents, or you may need help in trying to create business or lead generation, lead conversion, or whatever it is. So the one and done program is really there for one transaction just to help get you back on track. And so again, if you're interested in that, we're more than happy to talk to you about that as well. And of course, don't forget the Real Estate Commission now has really come on board and said, okay, this is what, and it's not necessarily a rule, but it is strongly encouraged by the Real Estate Commission. They want that if you are doing a type of transaction that you've never done before, or if you are trying to break into a geographic area where you're not familiar with the market, you must be mentored on your first 3 deals. Real Estate Commission has really started cracking down on what they call competency. And competency has to do with trying to do types of transactions that you haven't done before, or in a physical location where you're not familiar. And they understand, because of the number of transactions that have kind of dropped off a little bit over the last couple of years, sometimes agents tend to stretch just a little bit, maybe too far, and try to do something they really shouldn't be trying to do, or in a place they shouldn't be trying to do it. And the Real Estate Commission is watching over that. So make sure that you reach out. We can set you up depending on the situation. If it's a certain type of transaction, we have how many agents do we have here now, Marty? 1,500 in Houston. So 1,500 here in the Houston area. There's bound to be somebody who can help you with whatever it is that you need. So make sure and reach out. Don't try to do it on your own. A lot of times if you go too far with it, there's nothing we can do other than write it out and hope for the best. And we don't want that. We want to be proactive, not reactive. So, all right. The last part that I've got has to do with every month, Marty has tasked me with talking about one little certain thing that may be going on. And so this month, I'm talking about the listing agreement, section 12 of the listing agreement. These are questions that are asked and a lot of times ignored. And to be honest with you, a lot of times we had just kind of let it go. If you hadn't answered these questions, we just kind of let it go. But we're getting to a point where it's starting to have a negative effect of not having these questions answered, and especially 12E and F. So if you look through there, E, F, I, and J really all need answers. But specifically here, and just because I'm not talking about I and J doesn't mean you should let those go, but E and F specifically, because they both relate to exactly the same thing. And it relates to a seller going on record and telling whether or not there are some issues with title that they know about that really may preclude them from being able to close on a transaction. The issue here is that if we let a transaction move forward and there are issues that are going to keep this deal from closing because of clear title, if it turns out that the seller knew about these things and they just didn't disclose it, hoping that it would all magically go away or it would all be able to be solved somewhere along the way, we could be held accountable for that as well if we didn't ask the question. And I know a lot of times I think it may be that we just we're a little bit shy about asking the question, because it's kind of putting their integrity, in some ways, putting their integrity at question. It's like, I have to ask you about this. And whenever I used to do it, I used to make a joke out of it. I used to say, hey, look, sorry, but I've got to ask you this. Are there any liens on this property other than your mortgage? Or is there any other financial encroachment or any other financial encumbrance on this thing that could potentially have a negative effect on being able to close this deal? We have to ask that question, and that's what those questions center on. It asks whether or not the owner is delinquent on any obligations that could have an effect on the saleability of the home. It could be mortgage, could be taxes, could be property taxes, could be income tax, HOA, liens that are on the property, any other type of lien, judgments, etc. Any of those things. And I know we don't like to pry into their personal business, but they have made this our personal, or it's something we need to get involved with by putting that house on the market for sale. And so why is it important? I think I pretty much already went into that, but financially, what makes it important is that this buyer has spent money. They spent money on a loan application. They spent money on appraisal, spent money potentially on survey, spent money on inspections. They've spent money on trying to purchase this home in good faith. If it turns out somewhere along the way that there are liens on this property that would keep it from being able to be closed, then you can bet your bottom dollar that the buyer is going to want every penny back that they have spent up to that point. They're going to say, hey, look, I spent $2,500 in good faith here, and I tried to buy this home, and somebody knew that all of these things were present. If I had known, I might have moved on to another property. If we haven't even asked the question, if the listing agreement is left blank, then that means potentially we could be complicit in that, because if we had asked the question, at least we could put it back on the seller. We could put it back and say, well, we asked, it's not on us. We did our duty. We did our due diligence. We asked the question. They are the ones who did not tell us the truth, and they said no. And so, but if we haven't even asked the question, then we can be held accountable as well. And I'm put down there at the bottom. Why now? We've had 2 issues on this in the last 30 days. One of them was an IRS lien of $76,000, and there was enough equity to cover it. However, the seller didn't want to go move forward. Seller said, well, their thought was that they would be able to negotiate it down. Well, since we had plenty of equity, the IRS said, yeah, I don't think so. Why should we? Because there's plenty of equity here. And so the seller refused to sell. And that put everybody in a position of now the buyer coming up less than a week before closing saying, what am I supposed to do now? I have to move somewhere. I have to do something. And so this financial arrangement, or this financial investment that they have made, could go well beyond what they have spent to buy the property, because now they have no place to live. So ask the questions. We need to ask the questions. We need to record it on the listing agreement. And I can tell you, anytime I'm doing compliance, if I see they're not answered, I'm kicking them out. I'm kicking them out and pushing them back, because they need to be answered.
In addition to that, Don, as far as your license goes, this is about making sure, obviously, that we're not getting sued later on when there's a crisis to the buyer. However, we know that in many cases, when they go after the brokerage or the agent, if there's an incomplete contract, a sales contract, a listing contract, a buyer contract, and it's incomplete, it can be unenforceable, which means it comes back to your credibility and your licensing. So also, you have to ask these things because it's part of your job. You're being professional, but you must complete the documents as well. That's what we're tasked to fill in the blanks. Right, Don?
Absolutely. I mean, that's it. There's a blank there for some reason.
Yep.
And if you leave it blank, then it becomes ambiguous. It's like, well, did you miss it? Did you not ask it intentionally? What, does it mean 0? Does it mean not applicable? What does it mean? It could mean anything.
Wendy said, isn't this on the buyer rep as well?
I don't think they asked that on the buyer representation agreement. I think it's only on the lease listing and the sale listing, because it's important on the lease listing too. I didn't even mention it here, but it is important on the lease listing too, because if a tenant moves in and the house is in danger of being foreclosed on, and that tenant gets thrown out later on, then that is a potential liability risk as well. So it really even applies on the lease listing too.
Yep. And Tan says, where do you put in a contract? This is paragraph 12 in the listing agreement for both listing.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And then I think I saw one more in here for you. Listing agreement. Yes. That's what we're talking about, Wendy. Yep. Good. All right. And then Yvonne wants to know if this includes child support.
Anything that could have an effect on title. If it's a lien, absolutely. If child support's not paid, that could be a lien on the property. And so, yeah, I mean, they can come and take your wages for that. So absolutely. Yeah.
Anything lienable. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yep. Anything that could be a judgment against you.
Yep. Okay. Raul, would you raise your hand?
Yes. Good morning to all. Yeah. Similar. I want to share a similar kind of case that happened on the lease. When we did the lease listing, the seller said that everything was in accordance. All the payments were done properly. The mortgage was actually to help out with the mortgage payments, but truth was that they were behind 4 or 5 months. 4 or 5 months in, the payments were not being done to the mortgage. So then again, we have a foreclosure coming in, and it could have been a lot worse. Our agent was able to find the tenants another house. We negotiated with the landlord to pay that double deposit they needed to pay to their new tenants. To the new landlord. So it makes it, it could be a lot of headaches, takes your sleep away. So it's always good to ask in the beginning if anything there to come back and haunt us in the future, near future. Yeah.
Leanna asked about she left it blank, but they did answer no. Should you make an amendment? Yes, or you can go ahead and have them initial the actual signed answers on the form. So
yeah, the nice thing about the listing agreement and buyer rep and that's between us.
Yep.
That's between the seller and us, and so it's not quite as critical as it is like on a sales contract where it's between buyer and seller. It's between us. So yeah, I know they've always said that anytime you create a contract, if you need to make changes afterwards, you use the amendment. But on a listing agreement, it's a little bit more forgiving since it's between the seller and us or the owner and us. So a little bit more forgiving.
I'm going to go to Catherine. Catherine, you got a question?
Well, I just wanted to point out that I put it in the notes that watching the flooding areas, that the FEMA does the SBA loans and puts them in there. Now, those can be seen if you use your Remind. I know everybody doesn't know about that, that you can look down in Remind and it will tell you, because I had an incident where this happened where I had a client that I turned a sell into a lease because they couldn't sell the house. And one of the reasons why is because they had an $80,000 SBA loan for the repairs from FEMA, and they didn't realize it. And after the lease was up, they tried to sell it, and the agent had an offer on it, and they could not sell it because of that. So, but that's some of the seen things you can see in Remind, but there are still hidden. I had another sell one time where when we were getting ready to close, there was a small lien against the property that the listing agent needs a big agent that he didn't find, and he apologized all over the place, but it was, it can happen. But the flooding areas you really need to watch.
Yeah, Wendy asked too, can title see these on the front side of things? Usually when they pull title, they'll know things that are recorded against the property, Wendy. Occasionally there's things right before closing, you'll get a list pendings, or you'll get a lien from some kind of agreement in writing from a neighbor or whatever as well. So some of those, it'd be better if the seller was upfront about what they were exposed to. Even in HOA liens, sometimes they're not a lien on property yet, but they're going to be. They're in arrears, and so knowing that up front is important for us to know. So, and then we had looks like Paula.
Yes, I wanted to say that to be very careful with the seller's disclosure. As an agent, something happened to me like in 2012 where I didn't pay attention to. I looked through the seller's disclosure, but it was a little bit, just little letters on the links, and it says IRS link. Oh my goodness, I didn't see that. But like 2 weeks to close, we saw that. I mean, I saw that. My client was very patient. They did not even pay attention to that neither, because I did send it to them. But it was like very scary. And I pray about it, and I had to, because I'm a tax preparer, so I was able to speak with IRS, be like a mediator, talk to IRS, talk to the seller, and agree, by calling and sending letters that, they were gonna pay them once they close, once they were going to be closed. So that was a very scary, situation. So just be very careful with those letters. It was in writing, and it was very little. I didn't see that when that happened. So just be careful, because can, I have to, we have to send letters, we have to amend the contract. But we closed, but it was very scary. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks for sharing. Some of those things too, as long as they have enough money to cover it, it's not as big a deal, but knowing it up front so you know what you need to cover it when it comes to purchase price and closing costs is a big deal. If it's too much and you know it's going to be a problem where you can't close it, you don't want to proceed with it. So that's good. Don, let's back to you, brother.
I think that pretty much covers it. It sounds like we have a lot of potentially horror stories that could have come from this. So yeah, I mean, moral of the story is get the answers and fill them in.
Yeah. Andy, I think that question there was, should a buyer side these be in disclosure? Yeah, honestly, we should be, but the buyer doesn't give a disclosure, do they? They say we're pre-approved. They don't talk about liens and that kind of stuff. To us, maybe, but anyway. All right. All right. One, are we moving inside the loop? We are literally, if the lease gets finalized, which should be this week, it will be around the corner. So we literally a block and a half away from where we are right now. So not very far away. And earlier someone had a question about Move Concierge. We've had them for quite a while since I've been here. They are a free service that calls your clients on your behalf to offer a service that costs them nothing to transfer the utilities for them, and usually saves them money. If you choose you don't want that service, most of our clients love it. However, if you want to opt out of it, you can opt out of it in your transaction. There's a checkbox in your transaction file when you create one. So, okay. All right, following up. All right, couple things, additional thing going on. Raul can talk to this as well, but this is one Don and I were the other day. Like, well, we have a couple items we want to talk about. One was about disclosure. The other one was about another disclosure, the seller disclosure. And we hear all the time, whether it be Raul or Don or myself or even Cecilia, will say they don't have to have a disclosure for this. Well, yes, they do. Okay. You know, there are certain things like some commercial, obviously land, new construction, but what are the 11 exemptions? Because what we hear all the time is it was an investor. They bought it and never lived in it, or they inherited it and they've never lived there. It doesn't matter. They have to still fill out a disclosure. So reading these, if it's transferred pursuant to a court order or foreclosure, bank forecloses on it, okay? Or in a proceeding where it's gifted out, it can be exempted. This is the bank or the court would be exempted from that by law. If it was but transferred by a trustee in a bankruptcy, so they're selling it through the bankruptcy court, okay? Transfer from a mortgager to mortgager, so from bank to bank, a beneficiary. Or a deed of trust who acquired the property at sale pursuant to a power of sale, a deed of trust. So if you buy it at, auction or the lead in lieu of foreclosure. Transfer by fiduciary, so an attorney or decedent. Someone's a fiduciary for an estate, so an estate sale, right? Transfer from one co-owner to the other co-owner. So if Don and I own a property together and I sell it to him, I don't have to give him a disclosure. That makes sense. Okay. From one spouse to the other spouse in a transaction, you get divorced and you sell the house or in some way split the house between the parties. Transfer between you and a family member, oftentimes you're exempted as well. Transfer to a government entity. So if they take it in escheat or eminent domain, or they offer you money for it, there you go. And transfer of a new residence. So if no one's previously lived in, it's a brand new construction. This new construction is exempt from providing a disclosure. And then, of course, the last one, which we don't see very often here, but I've actually seen this about a half a dozen times in my career, where the real property, where the value of the dwelling does not exceed 5% of the value of the property. So I've seen like a 400 square foot shack on 5 acres. Well, they're not required to provide a disclosure. I've had people buy that, though, and add on to the shack and make it a nice house on acreage. So they can be good deals. But those are the 11 exemptions. And what is funny is the caveats to that is they're narrow and specific. Unless the transaction clearly falls under one of these 11 categories, the seller must provide a written disclosure. Even if it's I don't know, they're required to provide it. And of course, some commonly assumed exemptions, for example, simply being an investor, landlord, or someone who's never lived in the house does not exempt you unless you're in one of the 11 categories. And then again, even if you don't have to disclose by 11 things, you may still be legally obligated under common law or other statutes of things you knew about and did not disclose. So even if you are a trustee or someone, a spouse or whatever, and you know something's wrong with my house, flooding, mold, whatever, and you transfer the property, even though you're not required to, you can still be held liable for not disclosing those things. And then, of course, the exemption for new residents is never occupied, only applies to truly brand new dwellings, not just new to the seller. So even though they bought it from the builder and they're reselling to you, they still have to give you disclosure, even though they've not lived in it. Juan, do you have a question, hand raised?
I have the same issue you just mentioned happening to me as now. Is this the seller was an investor group, and the disclosure was provided as stating that they have never lived in the property. That's it.
Yeah.
Is that legit?
No, they have to give a disclosure. Yeah.
No, they gave me the disclosure.
Yes.
They did provide disclosure, but they did not answer any of the questions.
That's the same as not filling out the disclosure.
Yeah. They've got to go through and say, don't know, and then sign it. So they've got to actually go through the process and give you disclosure. So
that's why they give you that option. Almost every one of those sections has the option of unknown.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know, you don't know, but you still have to fill it out.
So how do I address that issue?
Yep. Well, you bring it back to them, said state law, actual says that you have to provide a seller disclosure. Please fill it out appropriately and get it back to us. That gives your buyer.
Buyer has to decide.
Yeah. That gives your buyer the right to terminate because they haven't delivered a seller disclosure all the way through the point they deliver it, and then you still have time to terminate after that fact. So if your buyer wants to use it too, that's a leverage you have, but they have to provide one to you.
So by not having it filled out completely, that gives them an opportunity to withdraw the offer.
Not withdraw the offer, terminate.
Terminate. I'm saying terminate the offer.
Yeah.
Even if it's after the option period.
Yeah, and then it looks like Judas is having the same issue. If they don't fill it out, you let your buyer know. Obviously, you're doing your due diligence. They're required to give it. We have our remedy is termination. If you still want the house, then you're taking so at your own risk at that point in time. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. A couple things here too. We've been dealing with a lot of transfers over from Realty Associates to HomeSmart. As you've all gotten an email from Trek that they're updating their system for license transfer and license renewal to a system called Realm. It's supposed to be all inclusive. So if you have multiple licenses, you can take care of it easily, but it is down now. It's supposed to be back up the evening of the 14th. Trek is still taking phone calls. So oftentimes they can help you and work in this current system, but manually versus us doing it as brokers or you doing it as an agent. So you can call them still if you have to renew your license in between time. Otherwise, though, it'll be back up by the 15th. And some over there at Trek are saying they're trying to shoot for the 10th, just so you know. But all the contracts are still there. All the links are still there for education. You just can't renew your license or transfer it the way you normally would until the 15th. Okay. All right. We won't go too much time here too as well, but these are all new forms or revised forms coming out on January, so just very soon. These are the Texas Realtors forms. And I just gave you a list here. They've updated the listing agreement. They've updated the farm and ranch, condominium addendum, amendment to listing, information on sewers, the buyer tenant long form, and so on and so on. Some of these mostly about removing sub-agency. There's some wording changes. Most of them are minor in what they did. We're going to show a couple today just to make sure you're aware of it when they come. And Don and I and Raul will be doing classes on these when we actually are official and we can use them again. But these are coming through on January 5th. And then there's already one coming out on January 1st, which is the one that's a little bit controversial, which is that showing form. And we're going to talk about that too, whether it's a benefit or not. I'm kind of about 70-30 against it at this point in time, but we'll see where that goes. So most of the language, this right here is your buyer tenant rep. They removed any language regarding sub-agency, but sub-agency no longer exists, which is a good thing. They reworded compensation language. I put it here because it's clearer to the buyer about how things work. So it says the total compensation broker receives for brokerage services provided under this agreement from any and all sources may not exceed the amount stated in the agreement. Meaning, so it's rephrasing it so that when you're telling a buyer that what I put in my buyer tenant rep is the limit of what I can make in the transaction from all sources. Okay. And so that's a lot cleaner. They've added a retainer fee option. This is interesting, and we'll have to figure out how to process that if we use this part of the new 1501 coming out in January 6th. But if there's an agreement here, it says, at this time, this agreement is signed, client will pay a broker a non-refundable retainer blank. A broker will or will not apply the retainer toward any other fees owed to the broker under paragraph 7A, which is the commission or compensation, when broker receives payment of other fees. Client agrees that this retainer is reasonable and is being paid in exchange for broker's time, resources, and services provided to and on behalf of the client. Client understands the retainer is fully earned by broker when paid and will not be refunded to client, even if this agreement is later terminated. Depending on the election above, so it's language to protect us and you in the event this is the way you want to go with your client, and then make sure that they're serious. And then additional language modified in the 1501. It says, broker will first seek to obtain payment of the broker's fees specified in paragraph 7A, first from the seller, landlord, or their agents. And then if such persons refuse or fail to pay broker the full amount specified, client will pay broker the amount specified. So it's a little clearer on what our job is. Hey, this is what the total amount I'll make. I'm going to try to get it from the seller, the landlord, or the other agent. But if I can't, this is your obligation. So I think they've done a good job as far as trying to clean up the language there. And like I said, we'll do training on this whole form when it rolls out. But this is coming out in January 6th. This is one that they added, a brand new form, a termination of the buyer tenant rep as TXR 1503. This is one that I think we'll probably use more often than not, because oftentimes when we want to terminate an existing buyer rep now, oftentimes we send a written notice by email, we're expecting some kind of, and we don't have that document. Now we do. And basically this allows like a listing termination. It says the prior agreement on or about blank, client and broker entered into a buyer tenant rep agreement. The parties terminate the agreement blank on this day. Then if there's a termination fee for doing so, and then both parties have to sign it. This is one of those things that in Texas, our buyer tenant rep, our listing agreements are two-party. They're bilateral. They're not unilateral. Notices oftentimes are individual. It only takes one party to send a notice, but these are an agreement. So a termination is an agreement as well. So you need both the buyers and yourself on behalf of the broker signing these agreements or these terminations. And it goes on to talk about fees. So I think the 1503 will be a good form for us because it's a way to terminate. This is also a new form. They've got a notice of withdrawal of offer. We didn't have this before. So if you submitted an offer and then your buyers change their mind before it's been accepted, there's an official way to withdraw that offer, or counter offer before it's signed, and it's basically given notice, and it's used by seller or buyer. So I like this form when it comes forward. Hold on, Jana. And this one also is a new form. It's the 1958, the residential contract critical date list. This is not an addendum. This is only a form for our use. This is only a disclosure to your clients saying, hey, based on the review of the contract, here are the important dates you need to be aware of. We allow all of this, probably do this already, but here's an official looking form that Texas Realtors provided to us. It says, hey, the effective date, our signing date is this date. Earnest money is due on this date. Termination option ends on this date. Your financing period ends on this date. And so it helps you stay straight, but also your client looks at it and goes, okay, I can have this as reference, but it also says this is not binding. This is one of those things, those dates can change based on the contract negotiations as well. This is what you do up front. So, and it gives an idea that if it falls on the last day of a period, ends on a holiday or a weekend, it goes to the next business day. So it really helps communicate what you've already told your clients in writing, which I really like this form a lot. Jana, you got a question? While we're waiting for Jana, go ahead, Raul. You're muted, buddy.
Yes, what I'm seeing also, it might be comes in handy for the file, maybe placed on outside of the first page of the file, and you have all the dates. Makes it a lot easier and just keeps you up to date.
Yeah, that's right, Judith. They can really get stuck on the dates. And oftentimes, if you share this around, if they have a problem, they'll say it right away. Say, no, I don't think it's this day. Let's figure this out, right? Because this is one that even experienced agents oftentimes miss. Your execution date is day 0. It's not day 1. So whenever you get signed around, the last party has signed the document, that's 0. The clock starts the next day, day 1. And then you count from there. And oftentimes people count this execution date as day 1. You can't do that. And so, okay. Yep. I do CL Wellness. I'm not sure who that is, but go ahead and you raise your hand.
Sorry, that's me, Courtney.
Hey, Courtney.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, since they're gonna have like this new buyer rep termination agreement in place, is that something that has to be signed, or will it still be the same as far as like, say if they want to cancel by text or email, is that still valid?
That's a really good question. It has to be a legal notice. This is where I'm going. Good question, by the way. I'll cover this in the next slide or two, but
Okay.
Texas Realtors provides legal documents prepared by attorneys for the use of its members, meaning these are optional forms for us to use to help us be professional. We're allowed to operate and fill in the blanks. We're allowed to use them as members of the Realtor Association, but they're not obligated to be used. So we can have our own broker forms. It has to be in writing. The law is written notice. So I would prefer an email versus a text,
Okay.
obviously, but it is still, and we prefer the use of these forms, but they're not required by law. So
Okay.
to answer your question.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. Janet. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. On the buyer's form about when somebody wants to terminate, because, I just recently went through that with Dong Lu, who I serviced him for a couple of months. And then since, he couldn't get it was about pretty much him wanting more money off, and it was really a messed up thing. And basically he just texted me and said, hey, thanks for your help, but me and my wife decided we're not going to do anything. Yet he still went back to Julian and the loan people.
Mm-hmm.
And Julian, pretty much divorced him. He was like, we don't do business like that here. He was trying to get Julian's commission and several others. So, of course, I didn't have a form. I didn't know if I was supposed to turn in a form or whatnot. Is that not available right now?
Again, it's usually written notice. We could do an email saying we terminated. And this form coming out now in January 6th, you can start using that one. So
Okay. All right. That's it.
Okay. One more form that this is the controversial one. This is the unrepresented customer showing form. And so as it reminds us that Texas state law says a broker must enter into a written agreement with a prospective buyer before showing them property. That's why we have the TXR 1501. That's why we require the 1501, because it talks about agency, talks about compensation, talks about indemnity, talks about all the things that protects you as an agent. Texas Realtors has provided this form again. Again, it's up to whether the broker allows it or not, and we haven't decided yet. I haven't decided yet on whether I'm going to allow it or not. But it's out there for realtors to use as of will be as of the 6th of January, I believe it is. So, but it says right here, it says, if you have a client, I see the language on this one we're trying to get to. And it says, this form is only to be used when a broker does not represent the prospective buyer or seller and only acts as real estate brokerage being performed as showing real property. So you couldn't do it for an open house because you are representing the seller on an open house. You couldn't do it for your buyer showings because you're talking real estate. You have to have a buyer rep. It says broker will at broker's reasonable discretion provide customer with access to real property described above according to the following. No representation. Broker does not represent customer. No compensation. Hold on. Go ahead and mute yourself, whoever that is.
Sorry, it was me.
Okay. No advice or opinions. No other brokerage service. The agreement is non-exclusive and automatically terminates at the conclusion of the showing of the property described above, and in no event no later than 14 calendar days from the last date initial. So it's only one property. It's not multiple properties. Yeah, it expires if you haven't shown the property. It's non-exclusive, means they could have these signed with 30 other agents, so you can't get protection commission. The only protection this offers is the limitation of liability. So if the buyer gets hurt on the property, they hold you harmless. Other than that, you're not protected. So I don't know why we'd ever use this, but in those rare cases where someone calls off somebody else's sign call, I don't know. Don's got a listing, someone calls off and I show them the property. I don't think I still talk to them about 1501. But they're providing this for those rare cases. Again, it doesn't do much. Don, comments on this?
This is like history repeating itself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this was back in when I first got in the business in the 1980s, and everybody was supposed to be representing the seller. But people were out showing properties to the buyer and going way beyond what they were supposed to be doing for that buyer. I mean, giving advice, giving opinion, and all of that. It really comes down to whether or not the agent has the ability, or if the agent is willing to play by the rules and not give advice, not give opinion. But you can just see where you're trying to create this relationship, you're trying to create rapport, an agent going further than what that document allows them to do. Basically, the document allows them to do one thing and one thing only. Here's the lockbox. I'm accessing the lockbox. I'm opening up the door. There it is. You know?
And you know they're going to ask you questions. And you can't answer.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
And then how do you police it, right? So this just opens yourself up to all kinds. Well, then the buyer says, hey, they gave me advice. Hey, they answered a question. Hey, whatever. You know, it went above and beyond the agreement. So
it's just begging for more and more backdated 1501s and.
Yep. Raul, you got something on this?
Yeah, and it's, like you say, it's only could apply only for very rare cases. But I think the outcome on that one is that as far as liability, we're protected. And a rare case example is one of our agents was doing an open house. The family that goes in says, you know, can you show me this property next door? I have an agent, but they're not communicating. They're not answering. Can you do me this favor? And that's where it could apply. And that's a great way of maybe using it.
There's a good example. Okay, so that it's rare though. I will say that. In that case,
Also, what if you're showing properties for another HomeSmart agent's client? Would you need to use this, or is the current broker agreement sufficient, even though you're not their technical agent?
Boy,
I would think the current agreement, because the agreement's with HomeSmart. The agreement
That's what I would think, but I wanted to confirm.
I don't think it would harm you in this case. I don't think you need to, as Donald said. So, because again, the agreement's with the broker, so anybody under the broker would be covered. So yeah. All right, Lupe is coming in. All right, I covered this already, but I just wanted to say that Texas Realtors Forms provides us these attorney prepared forms that we are licensed to use based on our membership. Okay, so membership with NAR, HAR, and Texas Realtors. They're not mandatory by law, but they may be required by your broker because they're best practice. Texas Realtors Forms aim to provide the best practice for our business. TREC forms are consumer protection focused forms created by legislation and law. They are promulgated forms and required forms for us with a few exceptions. Builder has their own forms, seller can have their own listing agreement or whatever, you know, but generally we're required to use these forms that TREC provides. They're designed to inform and protect consumers. That's why the way they're written is about protecting consumers. So there's a difference between TREC and Texas Realtors. So oftentimes the Texas Realtors forms are addressing the lawsuit and other business practice things that we don't have in TREC. And TREC is protecting consumers. All right. I want to see if we can listen to this real quick. Hold on here. And then while I'm pulling this up.
Is the only fabric that bacteria cannot thrive on. This is one of the reasons Jesus told us to wear and sleep on.
Just welcome to the.
Okay. This was just recently. This is Larry Kendall from the Ninja. It's only a few minutes. I thought it was really good for this time of year for all. And while I'm getting ready to play this for you all, I think you're going to really enjoy this as far as a reminder of the time of year we're in and so forth. Cecilia wanted me to mention as well that make sure on your file review, when you've uploaded your documents, Don and I and Raul and Cecilia will make notes below of the things that need to be fixed. The document may be there, but there may be something that has to be corrected. A signature's missing. You missed like paragraph 12, as Don was saying earlier. Make sure you're reviewing those. Oftentimes people think the document's complete or the file's complete, and it's not. And then your check is held up and you're not in compliance. So make sure you're looking at the notes below. All right, here we go.
The Ninja Sales Meeting. My name is Larry Kendall. I'll be your guide for this session, and we appreciate you joining us. Several weeks ago, I had a owner of a fairly large Ninja company ask me, how do you help people go from good to great? What are the steps that they need to do? And I said, well, first of all, let's define good and let's define great. And so we talked a little bit about it. You know, the national average for number of transactions is about 6. So we came up with good would be, double that, 12 to 24 transactions a year. Depending on your market. I realize in the luxury markets, you can do 2 or 3 transactions and do very, very well. But if we take the average sales price in the United States of around $500,000 or so, 12 to 24 transactions would be pretty good in this business. But then there are ninjas that are doing 50, 80, 100 transactions a year, making $500,000 to $1 million or more a year. What are they doing different? What is the path to mastery of going from good to great? That's what this session's about. But first, remember, it's another day in paradise. Or as Paul Simon said, these are the days of miracle and wonder. So take a moment to give thanks for the day. Okay, what are the 5 steps? How do you go from good to great? Well, this is my observation over the years of coaching and training top salespeople, and taking a lot of them from rookies to really amazing levels of production. So here's what I've observed, 5 things. Number 1 is the mindset. Now, mindset's important in a lot of different ways, as we've discussed and as we know from the Ninja installation, but the specific mindset that I notice in going from good to great is this. They understand the 3 circles of life from Dr. Stephen Covey. The outer circle is the circle of concern. And we're concerned about interest rates, we're concerned about the economy, we're concerned about the geopolitical situation. But how much control do we have over that area of concern? Not much. Then we have the circle of influence. We can influence our kids, we can influence our friends, we can influence our clients. And then in the middle we have the circle of control. What I notice about people who are doing really, really great is they tend to spend most of their time in their circle of control. What can I control today? What are my daily activities, my daily habits? Doing my Ninja 9, controlling my sleep habits, my diet habits, etc. And then focusing secondly on influencing their clients, influencing the people around them, but not spending very much time in the circle of concern. They're concerned, we all are. They just don't spend a lot of time there. Step 2 then is playing the infinite game. It's a mindset. And the infinite game comes from a book by Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game. And he describes 2 basic games in life. One of them is the finite game. Finite games have known players, there's fixed rules, there's a beginning and an end to the game. A good example would be a football game. There's known players, there's 2 teams. You also have the officials, you have the coaches, you have rules of the game, and the game starts with a kickoff and it ends when the time runs out. That's what we call a finite game. In real estate, an example of that would be the real estate transaction. The real estate transaction starts when buyers and sellers come to agreement on a contract. And the known players are the buyers, the sellers, the realtors, the lender, the title officer, the inspectors. And then the closing is the end of the game. That's a real estate transaction. It's a finite game. An infinite game also has known players, but these players, there's a beginning, but there's no end to the game. In fact, their goal is to continue the game. And a good example would be relationships. So within the context of the real estate transaction, the bigger context is there's a relationship there. And what I notice is top people recognize that and they build a relationship business. It's not just a series of transactions. The transaction is part of that relationship. There is a finite game, there is a transaction within the relationship, but the most important thing to them is the relationship, and they build a relationship business. How many realtors really do that? Well, you may have seen the Consumer Housing Trends report that asked 13,249 homeowners this question. Did your realtor contact you after closing? 74% said they never heard from their realtor ever again. Occasionally, they heard about 20%. Occasionally was defined as maybe once a year. On a regular basis, defined as about once a month, only 6%. That 6% represents the ninjas. That 6% is what we teach as far as flow and auto flow and staying in touch and building a relationship.
This pisses me off. They strip table salt down to 2 minerals, call it healthy, and then wonder why people are.
Now, I was showing this slide at a conference at the Colorado Real Estate Convention. And it was an early morning conference with, it was a breakout session with managers and owners. And I had this slide up and a manager raised his hand and he says, Larry, I don't believe that slide. I said, really? He says, yeah, I don't believe anything Zillow says anyway. And I said, well, Zillow isn't saying this. Zillow paid for the study, but it's an independent study. He says, I just don't think we're that bad. I says, well, you can believe whatever you want. I'm just giving you the study. 2 hours later on the main stage, in front of 5,000 people, is our keynote speaker, Lee Cockrell. Retired Executive Vice President of Disney, in charge of Disney World. He's given this incredible talk on leadership and on customer service. And partway through, he just stops. And he looks down at his feet, and he looks back up. He says, can I share an observation about your industry? My wife and I have purchased 11 homes in our lifetime. We've never once had the realtor connect with us after closing. You could have heard a pin drop in that room of 5,000 people. And I was looking for that manager. Guess what? Our industry is that bad. Our industry is transaction focused, not relationship focused. Not one of those 11 realtors chose to build a relationship with Lee Cockrell. It was just a series of 11 transactions. And why is that? Well, realtors tend to have a transaction mindset. You know, their mindset is that they bought their house, they're good to go for the next 7 to 10 years. Where's my next deal? In fact, have you ever heard a realtor refer to somebody as a past client? That's unique to real estate in my experience. My accountant, my doctor, my insurance agent, they don't refer to me as a past client. When you're transaction oriented, you see people as past clients. But here's the challenge. If you see them as a past client, what does that make you? It makes you their past realtor. And so there you are in that transaction mindset, that finite game. The top producers understand there's a bigger game than just the transaction. It's called the relationship game, the infinite game. Relationship and referral focused. You know, everybody that we work with, the surveys show that they know an average of 5 people who will move this year. And so how do we access and earn those referrals? And referrals are not built on asking for referrals. Referrals are built on relationships. Adam Grant is a professor at the Wharton School of Business, and he did a research study on this several years ago, and he was curious about what is the winning business strategy in business. And then he wrote a book about it called Give and Take. What he discovered is there's 3 basic strategies. One of them is what he calls the giver strategy, which is how can I create value for somebody? The second is the taker strategy. How can I extract value from somebody? And the third strategy is the matcher strategy. I'll give you something in return for you giving me something. And he was curious, which of these strategies is the winning strategy? Well, what he found was it depends on timing. In the short run, the taker strategy was the winning strategy. People who are really good at extracting value did very well in the short run. What's the problem in the long run? They began to develop a reputation for being a taker, and people started to shy away from them. What he discovered is that the winning strategy is the giver strategy because it builds what? Relationships. If you're known for creating value in people's lives, people will be attracted to you. Now, the matcher strategy fell someplace in between. The problem with the matcher strategy is this. If you're too much of a matcher, people perceive that you're running a ledger. And they don't feel that it's a relationship, it's some sort of ledger. Now, what he found in the taker strategy, the only way the taker strategy would work long term would be if you had a continuous supply of strangers that you could extract value from. But if you want to build a great business, build it around creating value and relationships. Now, when we say giving, be a go-giver, giving value, does that mean that we work for free? No, it doesn't. What it means is this. If you read the book, The Go-Giver, there's 5 laws of success. The first law is the law of value. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you receive in payment. You're going to get paid, but what we need to do is give more in value than we receive in payment. Here's my observation with ninjas. I think most of the ninjas that I've met, they have this law down. They know how to create value. They are go-givers. They are all about that and about building relationships. They've got that down. The challenge that I find for most of them is law number 2 of the go-giver, which is the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So it's a matter of scale. How can you do this at scale? How can you deliver tremendous value at scale? Which leads to number 3, scaling.
This AI tool will create a stunning ebook direct from your content, whether it's a Microsoft Word document or a Google document.
How many people can you serve and how well can you serve them? Can you scale your business? This is the one difference, or one of the differences that I see of people that go from good to going to great. They've learned how to scale. And let's talk about a limiting belief that many people have. Well, to double my income, I need to work twice as many hours. You know, to go from $500,000 a year in gross commission income to $1 million a year in gross commission income, I have to work twice as hard. And I can't work any harder than I'm working. Well, now wait a minute. Why do we have that belief system? Well, let me ask you this. How many of you at some time in your life worked for an hourly wage? Maybe as a kid growing up, that was your first job, was so much an hour. And we have this belief system then, for me to make more money, I have to work more what? I have to work more hours. I'm basically trading my time or my life for money. What we need to realize is real estate is different. And there's ways that we can double or triple or quadruple our income and actually work fewer hours. You know, going back to the definition of, going from good to great, one of our definitions of being great is this. Having high income per hour so you have a life. You're not working all the time. Well, how do we do that? Well, we need to be aware of where our time is being spent. In sales, there's really 3 types of time. There's productive time. That's when there's you, a client, and a contract. So you're listing a house, you're presenting a contract, you're writing a contract. You have a qualified buyer in the car, ready to buy a house when we find one. That's productive time. How do we get productive time? Well, there's indirectly productive time. It's what creates P time or productive time. It's flow time. It's Ninja 9 time. Okay? You are ninja, so you know what we mean when we say flow and auto flow and Ninja 9. That's what generates productive time. And then there's everything else. Everything else all the way from sleep time to eat time to fun time. to paperwork time and returning messages time. What is the value of P time for top producers? Well, we track that in our Ninja Coaching program. What we found is it can range anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 an hour. Wow, that's pretty high pay per hour. Would you agree? I'd like to have more of those hours. How do I get more P time? Well, with more I time, more flow time, more Ninja 9 time, more activities that generate P time.
In the essence of time, I'll go from there. But literally, he did the whole my whole training for Elevate by hour and a half training in about 20 minutes. You know, it really is about relationships. It really is about focusing and being smart with your time. We get so busy on things that don't produce results, don't get us in front of clients, don't give us more leads. So hopefully you enjoyed that. So all right, now real quickly, this is just the celebration slide. All right, we want to celebrate our top agents. Then we got some events coming up, and then we got to finish it up here as well. So there were so many. November was a little bit of a down month for a lot of our agents. It's like Thanksgiving and the holidays being travel, and so we had top agents for units for November. Tied was Luis Navarro, Jessica Lowe, and I can't pronounce this. I'm sorry, but you got that right there. And tied for second was Eric, Alejandro, Tracy, Claudia, Suapa, Carla, and Hong Jung. Congratulations to you all for November. We do volume as well. That's the sales price combined for the month. And I put one number there just because Carolina, you did really good this month in November. It's 5.5 million of sales volume. That's fantastic. Suyas, Sean, Zoo, Louise, Tina, Amber, Robert, Timothy, and JD. Congratulations on your volume for November. We do units for teams. Tracy's group over there, the Bay Area groups, leading the way with the Portillo Realty Group, HSI Commercial, Royal Elite, and Young Real Estate Group, doing the most units for November. And then, of course, they do the same thing for volume. HSI Commercial leads the way there. Bay Area Group, Portillo Realty Group, Young Real Estate Group, and the Royal Elite Realty Group. Congratulations to you all. This is one we're going to keep up just year-to-date running. We'll do the last one before Diamond Awards. So we don't count units necessarily except for the top 5. But year-to-date, just so you know, Lizette's killing it with 45 transactions closed to date. Tracy at 41. I'm curious, Tracy, if you're going to beat her or not. We shall see. Henry's 27. 24 for Eric, 23 for Sheena, 22 for Wendy, 22 for Eve. That's a lot. That's a great year in light of everything. So congratulations. Those are units sold to yesterday. And of course, volume-wise, this is also impressive. Tim O'Neill, 30 million. Ignacio, 17 million. Lizette at 15. Tracy at 14. First 2 commercials, second 2 obviously residential, and down the line. So, and then we had 3 at 7 million down there at 11th place. So, final numbers will be out at December 31st for our Diamond Awards next year. So I'm excited to see where everybody lands out. I put this shirt here because this is what everybody's saying right now. Grace, we had our breakfast yesterday up at their Montgomery County HAR networking meeting, and she has a shirt that says "Let it close, let it close, let it close." And I think that's what we all say: get the deals done as we close out the year. So good job, Grace. All right, we've been busy, as you all know. We had our Elevate watch party in the Woodlands. We had a third quarter top producers lunch at Maggiano's. We had an in-person brokers meeting. We had our CE class on appraisals. We had an in-person event with Todd Sumney in Houston, an in-person event with Todd in the Woodlands and in the Pearland, all in November before Thanksgiving. So here's a few pictures. And this is one right before that with the top agent lunch with Stacy Onan the week before. We had a picture of me talking at the thank you very much, Raul, for the picture at our in-person brokers meeting. Here's our top producers lunch for the third quarter. There was an outside photo and, of course, a selfie photo. Mara, you always do a great job with those. Thank you so much for that. Celebrate you guys' success. This was when Todd was here. We had our top producers, our top agent panel. Todd he's full of energy. I love it over there. I appreciate our partners. And then, of course, we had a couple events up in the Woodlands. This is yesterday, and of course, a watch party there. And of course, we had a Friendsgiving down in Pearland with Sandy and the team down there. And then we have some winners for some free signs there with Todd. So as you can see, we've been busy bouncing around. It's been great. Congratulations to everybody. And of course, a couple staff things. Me and Don and Raul got to have dinner with Todd and dinner with Stacy on 2 separate nights. So probably one of the reasons why I'm gaining weight. So we need to watch those dinners anyway. Okay, upcoming events. We have a lot in the plan. So on next Wednesday, we have our last CE class for the year. It's virtual only. We lost the room. Doesn't matter. We can put more people in there. So it's a 2-hour class from 10 to noon. There's only 35 registers so far, so we have plenty of space to add people to it. So if you want free clock hours on real estate investing, make sure you follow the link in my email and in Real Smart Agent to sign up for the class to get your clock hours. And we'll have a one free clock hour class every single month next year as well. They're in the planning stage as we speak. A special event, another special event. Houston's getting lots of love. So we had obviously the acquisition and bringing on the team from Realty Associates. We had Stacy out here, our president. We had Katie out before that, our chief operating officer, and had special events with them. We had Todd out, which is our chief industry officer. And now we're getting Rich out, which is our vice president of Western region, right? Corporate brokerage operations. Big number. Anyway, we've seen Rich before. We love Rich. He's coming out for our holiday event, but he's coming out the day before. So we're having a special event at the Katie training room over at the Republic Square building again from 1 to 3 on the 16th, the day before our holiday event. And Raul, Don, and I will be there as well. And I'm tasking Raul and Don and myself to come up with one tip for all of your business to launch into 2026. And then, of course, Rich is going to bring industry insights, updates from HomeSmart, some tools and tricks for launching 2026. And Rich has been in the business a long time as well, and has experience in multiple states, and obviously oversees the entire Western region for all of our offices. So he's always great to listen to. So make sure you sign up for that. The room holds a lot, so we can hold a lot there too, from 1 to 3 on the 16th. The holiday party. We are currently on the waiting list. The facility, the space holds 175 people. We are at 175 people. So if you cannot make it, please email events@hsmove so we can make room for other people. If you're still signing up, we will let you know. There's always cancellations, and you might get in. For now, though, it is sold out. It should be fun, though. All right. This is something coming up to another event for all of us.
2026 is here, and it's time to turn the corner toward new opportunities in real estate. Join RIS Media for Real Estate's Rocking in the New Year 2026, the must-attend virtual event that helps agents and brokers kick off the year strong. Hear from leading experts, top-performing brokers, and industry visionaries as they share insights on how to make the most of a better market, including Brian Buffini & Company, Rick Haas, United Real Estate, Christina Pappas, The Kai's Company, Illustrated Properties, Dr. Lisa Sturdivant, Bright MLS, Ray Mesa, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Florida Realty, Jackie Lowe, Lamacchia Realty, and many more. Gain actionable strategies, stay ahead of market shifts, and start 2026 with confidence. Premier members attend free. Register now for Real Estate's Rocking in the New Year 2026, presented by RIS Media.
I say that because our very own Todd Subney is one of the speakers on this thing. It's an all-day event. Starts at 11 in the morning or 10. What's that? 10 in the middle. 12 noon for us. Is that right? 11, 12. Yeah. Eastern. Yeah. 10. Thank you. Getting all the math wrong. 10 o'clock in the morning for us, and ends like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's an all-day, multiple speaker event, all virtual, and it's all free for HomeSmart agents because Todd is a speaker. So that's one of your second Thursday in January. So mark your calendar. It is free. You can choose the speakers. There's an agenda there. And then when they're speaking, and listen, it's a great way to start your new year off. All right. That's more about that. we've been tasked with a lot of things. So Don and I and Raul and I will be meeting with Grace and Sandy as well, planning out next year as far as events. But we're going to do initially, we're planning business planning and goal setting workshops. We have some training, probably regional in every office. We have HomeSmart tools workshops in the planning, marketing workshops, expired listing workshops. Don and I are talking about this. Regional in-office contracts training, monthly CE classes, central, hybrid, and regional. So we can do them online, in person, and local. Social media and video creation workshops as well. But big demand was about getting together and doing these things so we actually produce something. So we're looking forward to that. We're doing HomeSmart is going to do quarterly masterminds where they get top agents that are in different in our area to host events and then ask questions and do panels, sort of like we did when he was here. We're going to focus in 2026 on building our teams and helping our team leaders grow their teams as well. So stay tuned for that. Diamond Awards coming in March. Top producers lunches quarterly, elite agent events quarterly, team events quarterly, summer agent appreciation party, Friday fundamentals will continue, coffee talk with the broker will continue, happy hours and coffee donuts events will start again in your area. Obviously, a Ninja installation coming in May, and then, of course, Growth Summit next year. This is an overview of the sort of things that are scheduled already, and we'll provide the updated schedule very, very soon. But there's a lot coming to add value to help you guys be successful. All right. Lastly, but not least, as we end the meeting here, just a reminder of all the tools that is already provided, and they're continually adding more tools. We have the Smart Agent app, which you can access all your documents and do your stuff on the go on your phone. We have the Agent app. We can send an app to your client and keep track of them. They're tied to you forever. They can look at properties. They can communicate back and forth with you. It's free to use as a tool. We in the client app as well. We've got the Marketing Design Center. We've done a lot on this stuff, but we're still exploring the depths of this, of creating brochures and flyers and social media and so forth. One of the cool things I like about it is they prepare a social media post created for consumers for you to use every single month. So make sure you're using those things. Market reports, Todd showed us how to use these when we were here. We'll have a workshop on this. I think this is fantastic, a great tool for us to use to send information to our sphere of influence, not our past clients, but our current clients, as Larry Kendall talked about, that they're not past, they're in our in flow with them. The HomeSmart CRM, smart showings. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly for time. Your own website. Every agent's got a website. Every agent, you can customize it, you can modify, you can point to it or point it somewhere else. Go in there and make sure you're fine tuning over the Christmas holiday and New Year's. You're getting your website up to par, if you will. Signing platforms. You don't have to do DocuSign or that kind of stuff. We have other choices, obviously. Listing agreements, smart tools, which is the automate. When you get a listing, with the smart tools, you can click a button, creates a YouTube video for your based on your photos, and creates a flyer instantaneously. If this would be without even going into Marketing Design Center, it's there for you. It is a quick way to get started. Smart signs, obviously, this is great for tracking clients, is getting more leads. A home near me, on and on and on. Smarty, the chatbot. RPR, Realtor Property Resources Integrated, the only brokerage in the nation that has integrated this into our Real Smart Agent and into our Marketing Design Center, where the data is coming from for those flyers. AI Home Design for editing your pictures, Real Smart Vendors, of course, that's for our partners. And lastly, but definitely not least, Don is amazing. Don's handwriting is so much better than mine that we send out a birthday card every single month to our agents to have birthdays in the month. And going forward, both Raul and I will be signing these as well because Don has actually legible handwriting. I'm sure Raul does too. I do not. But for December, there's a lot of names. Happy birthday to all the December babies out there. You should be getting or have gotten a birthday card already, but we wanted to wish you happy birthday here as well. So, and that would be it. Let me see here.
To be honest, you didn't set the bar really all that high with that handwriting.
Well, Don's actually seen my handwriting, so we know that you would be calling me to say, "What does this say?" and so we don't want that. We wanted you to be blessed and blessed. So we have a couple of questions still. Looks like Paula's got her hand up again. Got a question, Paula?
Yes, sorry. I would like to ask you because I saw that there's a holiday event, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I was gonna take a picture or something, but it passed really quick. When is gonna be the event?
Yeah, I covered that because we are sold out. I will send you an email so you can sign up on the waiting list for that. But it is the 17th of December from 6 to 9. And so it's coming up very soon. But right now we're at max capacity. We by fire code, we can't put any more people in the room. So at this point in time, you'll be in the waiting list.
Okay, so it's gonna be in December the 12th?
The 17th.
17. Okay, 17. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Wendy wants to know if there's going to be a chance to be an in-person walk through some of the tools. Yes, that's part of the workshops we're planning, Wendy. We're going to try to do those centrally and regionally, in person, and small group, like 10, 15, 20 people at a time, and walk through these different tools and workshop it so you're actually doing it while we're showing it. And so you can actually create a flyer and walk through a marketing design center and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of one of the things we're going to try to get scheduled on the schedule for next year. And thank you, Sandry. Any other questions before we end this for today? I'm going to stop recording.